It takes a lot of time. You don't know exactly what the occlusion will be. You need to have some learning curve. You need to have more information that goes between the doctor and the technician. How you transfer this information from the technician back to the doctor.
Welcome back to Uniqa Dental Show, where we discuss interesting cases and new procedures. Hi, Niv.
Hello.
Today we have part 2 of the CAD CAM.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Previously, what we talked about is different procedures and different advantages that we have with the CAD CAM technologies. Today we're going to discuss different technologies, different methods that exist that we can use to ease some procedures in the process of taking impressions, in the process of having interocclusal relations, in different types of processes that we do day to day in our clinic, but are much simpler with the technology of the CAD CAM that sometimes we don't even think about them this way. For example, in here you can see we took relations, interocclusal relations, using the CAD CAM technology. Now, what the CAD CAM technology gives us that we didn't have previously? First of all, we're having here scan abutments. Doesn't matter right now on what type of parts we have the scan abutments, but we want to have these kind of abutments on the upper jaw, and we want to have them in relation to the lower jaw. So if it was a traditional method, what we would do, we would take wax, we would know the height, we would know the central line, we would know different elements using wax. But if you want to scan, if you want to use the CAD CAM advantages, you can't use wax. So what we're using is we're taking composite material, we lay the composite material on the buccal side of the scan abutments. So what you have is the same scan abutments, but you have a rim of composite in the buccal part. The composite material is in relations to the lower jaw, so you have the indentations of the lower teeth, you have everything you need, you scan it, and you can place the clean jaw on top of the jaw with the composite material. So you're using CAD CAM technologies, you're using intraoral scanner, and you have the perfect occlusion because in here you know where the central line is supposed to be. You can mark the canine lines, you can do everything. You can see the height of the lip line, of the smile line, of the gingival line. You know the height that's supposed to be of the antagonist that you want to design. And then you just take this scan and relate on top of this one.
I look at all these images and I think it doesn't look like it's straightforward, intuitive for a doctor to take an intraoral scanner and be able to perform this procedure.
Exactly. It's gonna take time. It takes some chair time because you need to build this composite rim onto the scan abutments. And it takes a lot of time instead of just taking wax and sending it to the laboratory. But on the other hand, you have a consistent interocclusal relations every time the patient opens and closes his mouth. You have reliable information because what you see here is what the technician would get. You know that this is the occlusion. When you take the occlusion with wax, the technician can make anything he wants. If he thinks it fits, if he thinks it fits like that or like this, you don't know exactly what the occlusion will be, and you have much more deviations in the end result. In here, what you see is what you get. You see this occlusion. If you think this occlusion is right, you can proceed, you can send it to the technician. But if you think you have here a problem, that probably you did something wrong. When you're using traditional methods in taking interocclusal relations, you don't know what the end result would be because it switches so many hands. You take the impression, you need to send it to the technician. It can deform in the process of the delivery. The technician needs to take the wax, to take two models, to put them one on top of the another. If it deformed or not, or didn't fit, didn't sit till the end, you don't know what you'll get. and the next time when you check it, you have already crowns. You can't be sure that the end result, the end crowns, will be similar to the relations you got. In here, everything is in your hands. You can see it right away, and you know if what you got is the same that's in the mouth.
I want to return to the question that we talked about in the first part. We receive feedbacks from dentists about this intraoral scanner. Some of them say that they cannot scan some of the abutments. Some of them say that they have some sort of deviation or problem with it. What do you think?
If, as a first case, you'll try to scan 9 implants without any teeth, without any hard tissues, it's as hard as taking impressions, traditional method, on 9 implants on the first time. You need to have some learning curve. You need to start with something small and learn how it works, because you have some things you can do to ease the work. With time, you understand that you need to have a dry gingiva for the gingiva to scan better. The upper jaw, much easier to scan because of the hard palate that you have. In the lower jaw, you have the tongue, and you have much smaller jaw, and in many times the gingiva is moving. So for the scanner, it's very hard to scan. In this case, for example, when you take impressions on the lower jaw, the only thing that connects the scan abutments is the composite rim, because your gingiva is moving. The scanner doesn't know how to scan when the gingiva each time in different place. Mm-hmm. So in the first place, we just put a composite rim, then we scan the composite with the scan abutments, and we have something hard, something constant. To that composite rim, we scan everything else. We scan the gingiva and we scan the scan abutments. Mm-hmm. So we'll get in one scan all the information. The problem is you won't have the gingiva quite good.
So as everything else in life, it just takes practice.
Yeah,
you need to start small.
You need to start small. You need to have a little bit of practice with the small works. You need to see where you have problems, mm-hmm. and you need to know how to see those problems, because it's not visible right away, and you can scan whole jaws and everything will work when you have enough experience.
What else do we got?
When you took impressions on a multi-unit level, in CAD CAM you can change the multi-unit digitally. You don't have to change it manually. For example, if you take impressions the traditional method, and you saw in the impression that the multi-unit is a little bit higher than I would want it to be, mm-hmm. and I want to change the height of the multi-unit, it's impossible to do it manually on the model, on the working model. I need to tell it to the doctor. The doctor needs to call the patient again. He needs to take the impressions again, and then he sends me again the impressions. I make stone model, and I start all the work from the start. Mm-hmm. With the CAD CAM, because I have everything digitally, I have the coordinations of all of the multi-units in the program. So if, for example, I took on this multi-unit, you can see the crown is a little bit higher. You can see this place. So aesthetically, I would want to change the multi-unit to 1 millimeter smaller. To change the multi-unit 1 millimeter smaller, with the CAD CAM technologies, I just click in the program on a button, and I have different multi-unit. Then the doctor takes this multi-unit, getting it out, changing to new multi-unit, and attaching the bridge that the technician gave him.
Please explain a little bit more about coordination.
When you take an impression with scan abutment, mm-hmm. you know the place of the scan abutment. When you know the place of the scan abutment, you know the place of all the parts below the scan abutment, the multi-unit and the implant. If you know on what type of multi-unit you took, on what height of the multi-unit you took, so you know the height between the scan abutment and the implant. Mm-hmm. For example, if you took on multi-unit 2 millimeters, the height between the scan abutment and the implant is 2 millimeters. You can digitally change it to 1 or to 3 or whatever you want. So the height of the scan abutment will still be the same, but the beginning of the restoration will change according to the multi-unit that you'll use. This is when you're taking impressions on the multi-unit level. If you take impressions on implant level, you know the exact position of the implant. And with implant level scan abutments, you can choose from all the parts. I'll show you a little bit more next slides. When you took impressions on one type of multi-unit, for example, this is 2 millimeters multi-unit, you know that the height between the multi-unit, between the base of the scan abutment to the implant is 2 millimeters. You can change it digitally to 1 or 3 and 4. The only problem is that you need to know the original height of the multi-unit you used. So if you take on 2 millimeter multi-units and you tell the technician then you took on 2 millimeter multi-unit, he can change it to all the different types of multi-units according to the 2 millimeter that you took originally.
Even for smaller versions?
Yeah, even for smaller and even for bigger. But if you don't tell the technician on what type of multi-unit you took, you are in a problem, because if you took on 1 millimeter and the technician tells the program to go 1 millimeter lower, you don't have such kind of multi-unit, or from 4 going to 5. This is why you need to have this information also when you want to use this method.
Okay, and how it correlates with our case?
Yeah, in the case you can see that originally the original crown that the technician designed was above the gingiva for about ½ millimeter. After changing the multi-units, the crown was ½ millimeter below the gingiva.
And how it connects to our case?
In the original design, you can see the base of the crown was about ½ millimeter above the gingiva and the base of the multi-unit. But when we changed it, you can see the base of the crown is about ½ millimeter below the gingiva. So what you get is a crown that's a little bit longer, that won't fit onto the multi-units that the patient has in the mouth. The technician needs to tell the doctor to change that multi-unit from, I think it's 2 millimeters to 1, and then the doctor can just fit in the bridge and everything's supposed to work. This way you save another appointment. You don't need to retake impressions. You don't need to call the patient again. You save time.
It works perfectly.
It works perfectly. The only problem is you need to have the information of what type of multi-unit you used, and what height.
The information that goes through doctor to technician and vice versa is really critical on this point.
Yeah. The more things you want to do, you need to have more information that goes between the doctor and the technician. But in this case, you save at least one appointment and a lot of work for the technician. Because you use CAD CAM, because you use intraoral scanner, it's impossible to be done with the traditional methods.
Impossible to be done?
Impossible. Because you have a working model. On the working model, you can't change the analog, its height. It's inside the model.
Everybody happy, the doctor happy, the technician happy, the
and
patient
is happy.
So what else do we have?
We talked about multi-unit level scan abutments. Now we want to talk a little bit more about implant level scan abutments. The difference between multi-unit level scan abutments and implant level scan abutments is that the multi-unit level scan abutment gives you the information according to the multi-unit. If you're using different type of multi-units, you can change between different types of multi-units from the same category, but you can't switch, for example, from straight multi-units to angulated multi-units, because you don't have any information regarding the orientation of the hex. So if you took impression on straight multi-unit, you can't change to angulated one. But what happens if you don't know what type of multi-unit you want to use at all, and you're using CAD CAM? In this case, you need to take impressions on implant level. The implant level takes you the relations of the hex inside the implant and the height of the implant. So theoretically, if I took impression on implant level scan abutment, I can choose to use different types of multi-units, angulated one and straight one. In example, for this case, we took impression with implant-level scan abutment, but what I've wanted to show is the multi-unit on the implant-level scan abutment can be angulated one. You can see the multi-unit inside the mouth, and it can be a straight one. You can see it in the modeling. So the one who will choose what type of multi-unit to use is the technician. The technician will see if it can be milled, what type of design is best for this type of case. In many cases, I'll tell you, the person who knows the best is the technician, because he can see it, he can see all the angles, he knows what type of multi-unit to use best for each case.
Why not to use implant level all the time?
If you use implant level scan abutment, on the one hand it's great because you can choose from all of the options, all types of multi-units. You can choose all the straight ones, you can choose all the angulated ones, you can change between them. But in here, the most crucial part is how you transfer this information from the technician back to the doctor, because sometimes the technician doesn't tell the doctor exactly what type of multi-unit he used. If you use angulated multi-units, each type of angulated multi-unit has 6 positions. So in here, those 5 angulated multi-units, only one was taken with implant-level scan abutment. If we took all the 5, you have 5 times 6 positions.
30.
Yeah, 30 positions of different, right, of different positions of angulated multi-units. And even if one multi-unit is in the wrong place, the bridge in the end won't fit at all. And you don't know what from all these multi-units is the incorrected one. When you have 5 angulated multi-units and you take all the impressions on implant-level scan abutment, each multi-unit has 6 positions. So all in all, you have 30 positions, 30 different positions with the multi-units. And even if one multi-unit is misplaced, the bridge eventually won't sit on those multi-units, and you don't know the problem where and which multi-unit is misplaced, and you just can't fit the bridge. So it's a great option, but you can't use it a lot because it gives you too many options for the doctor eventually. But all in all, it's great, and you need to do it only when you're not sure what type of multi-unit you want to use. If you're sure what type of multi-unit you want to use, for example, even if you know it would be a straight multi-unit, you can take on multi-unit level impression. Eventually, you can change the height of the multi-unit if you want, but take on the multi-unit level impression. In here, you can see the scan abutment. The scan abutment have the coordinations of all the multi-units. Each multi-unit in 6 different positions. Yeah, the implant-level scan abutment. So if you use the implant-level scan abutment, you can choose between 70 degrees and 30 degrees multi-units. And if you choose, for example, the 17 degrees multi-units, you can then switch between the 70 degrees, or you can later switch to 30. You just need to tell the doctor to pass him this information so we could change it in the mouth. You'll just get lost when you try to position all the different multi-units in different places, and you don't know where's the problem, and you just don't know what to do. Here we can see that eventually the implant-level multi-unit that was taken, we chose to do on straight multi-unit to avoid the buccal bulge. And in the final restoration, in the design of the final restoration, you can see that the straight multi-unit with a smaller sleeve, the screw channel goes buccally and distally to tooth 25, and the screw channel is invisible, so it's a great option in here to use the straight one. But in here, the only guy who can tell you what type of multi-unit to use is the technician. In here, the only person that can tell you what type of multi-unit to use is the technician, because the technician can see if it can be milled. If you can later design and manufacture this restoration properly. Because when you see the patient in your chair, you don't know what to do. You don't know what type of multi-unit. If you're not sure, and you don't have too many places when you're not sure, use the implant level. In here, what was done that we gave the technician the options to choose. You can collaborate more with your technician with the information that was sent to the technician. You have more information, you have more options. You just need to choose wisely what type of options you want to use, and don't give yourself too many options because you can get lost in so many options.
Thank you for being here today. Don't forget to like, subscribe and follow. Stay tuned for more and see you next week.